Alright, so greetings people of the internet. My name is Mr. Darksphere, and I am here to bring you all a Melffy deck profile for post 2022 Tin of the Ancients. Now, Melffy's is probably one of my favorite archetypes to play in the entirety of the game, and not because of the adorable artwork that looks like a 10-year-old girl's fever dream. I mean, look at that puppy right there. Those eyes have seen some shit. So, what exactly is the Melffy archetype? Well, it's a collection of level 2 beast type monsters that special summon themselves from your hand during your end phase. And whenever your opponent normal or special summons a monster, or uses a monster to attack your Melffys, they can return themselves to your hand to activate an effect. Whether that would be adding cards to your hand, special summoning more Melffys to your field, returning cards from your graveyard to your hand, special summoning a beast monster from your hand, or even special summoning a level 2 or lower beast card from your deck. There's a lot to offer with this relatively adorable archetype. While the deck has been okay at best for years, mainly being used as a splash with Tri-Brigades as an engine to make the deck a bit better, Power of the Elements actually released more support that made the deck stand out and even bumped it up to Rogue tier. Yes, these little fuckers right here actually made it to Rogue tier and even made it to a YCS with the Sprite engine coupled alongside it. As well, because I guess rank 2 engine go burr. You can shove a rank 2 engine onto literally anything and you can make sprites work. And this deck was no exception. I mean, come on, it made it to a fucking YCS. Like, goddamn. Now, while I do firmly believe that Sprite is the best way to play this deck, I can't afford a $60 card that you need 3 of. I can't afford fucking Sprite Blue for $60. So, we're playing it pure. Now, you're probably asking why not splash it with Tri-Brigades? That's what worked in the past, and Tri-Brigades are certainly cheap. Well, the reason that I don't do it is after testing it a while at some local events, it doesn't feel like you're playing Melffys. It feels like you're playing Tri-Brigade with a bit of Melffy splashed in rather than the other way around. So for my money, I believe that the best way to play this deck is actually pure. And you'd be surprised how much you can get done with this little patch of pastel puffballs. Alliteration is hard, okay? So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be going through each card in this deck, and I'm going to explain what it does for the deck. And I'm also going to be doing a couple test hands with a bit of advice on what cards you can go into and some of the combos you can do with this deck. So without further ado, let's get right into the deck profile. So first off here, we have one copy of Alpha the Master Beast. Now, this card's been used everywhere, mainly in Tri-Brigades, because it's a free special summon. But in this deck, it's actually really easy to bring out, since you can search it off of Caddy's effect, which we'll get into in a bit. And it's really easy to special summon since all the Melffy cards have relatively low attack points. Not only that, if you have a field full of Melffy cards, you can really use it to kind of wipe your opponent's board in a sense. You can use it to bring all of the cards back to their hand. And then just bring all your Melffys back during your end phase. So, however, I don't recommend running any more than one, because having multiple of it kind of does gum up your hand a little bit. And realistically, it seems a bit excessive to run any more than one. Next up is 3 copies of Rescue Cat. This is one of your main combo starters, which allows you to send this card, actually, sorry, my English is bad, to the graveyard to special summon 2 level 3 or lower beast cards from your deck, however their effects are negated. This is your main combo piece. There's another combo piece which we'll go into later, but you can use it to go into literally anything that you want. You can use it to bring out your level 2 monsters and go into any of your rank 2 Xyz. You can use it with Melffy Sealy, or Melffy Penny as it's known, to go into any of your synchro options. You can use it with X-Saber Arabellum to go into Naturia Beast. There's a lot you can do with Rescue Cat to help you get set up even more for your opponent's turn, because Melffys usually play a lot better during your opponent's turn because of how their effects work. Next up is 3 copies of Melffy Puppy. Now, I have seen people run 2 copies of this, but for me, no. I'm sorry, but I don't think you should ever run any less than 3. Reason being is it can allow you to special summon a level 2 or lower beast cards from your deck. All the Melffys have the same effect where you can special summon this card during your end phase, and when your opponent normal summons or special summons a monster, or targets this card for an attack, return it to your hand. I'm not going to be mentioning that part of the text anymore. I'm just going to be talking about the specific little effects that the Melffy cards have. So Puppy allows you to special summon a level 2 or lower beast card from your deck to your field, which is really good in order to not only get some more Melffys on your field, like Melffy Wally, and then go into more stuff from there, but allow you to get a card known as Kalantosa, Mystical Beast of the Forest. This is probably one of your main searchers, your name special summons off this card, which can allow you just to pop a card in the field for free. Next up is Melffy Sealy. Now, I'm only running 2 copies of this card because if I ran it up to 3, it would be a bit of a bricky sort of deal. Same thing with Alpha the Master Beast. It can kind of gum up your hand if you're not careful. But the effect is still really good. It's basically a Hopbeard Squadron, which we'll get into what that card does in a bit. But it can allow you to synchro summon a monster using this card and a Melffy monster in your hand as materials. And my dog's barking in the background. I apologize if you hear that. So how you trigger this effect, though, is if a face of beast monster you control, English is hard, god damn, was returned to my hand this turn. So if any of my Melffy cards was returned to my hand, then I can trigger Sealy's effect to special summon itself and then go into a synchro card using a card in my hand, which is really good. It's basically a Hopbeard Squadron, but it's a bit slower, so it's just another way you can get into your synchro plays if you so wish. Next up is 1 copy of X-Saber Arabellum. A bit of a weird inclusion, but tricks of the trade here. This is only used to go in the Naturia Beast because you need a level 3 tuner. That's it. You're not going to be using the 1600 attack points. You're not going to be really inflicting damage all that much. It's literally just here to go in the Nat Beast. I mean, I don't know what else you want me to say about this card. Next up is Hopbeard Squadron. The best way to get synchros out in this deck. It's easily searchable off of the effect of Caddy, and it'll allow you to synchro summon a monster during your opponent's turn, especially during their main phase. So they can target. It forces you to target a monster you control, and special summon a card from your hand, and you do a synchro summon using Hopbeard Squadron and the target you selected. So you have to be a bit careful about which card you select to use this effect on. Your main push with this is either Herald of the Arclight or Cheerful Melffys. Those are your main 2 pulls on your opponent's turn because Omni, Negate, and Floater, respectively. You could do Old Entity Haster, but definitely you're playing a ballsy game if you're using that card, which I am. Which we'll get into why I'm doing that later. Next up is the new Melffy Wally. This is, besides Puppy, the best Melffy card in the whole deck. It can allow you to special summon 2 Melffy cards with different names from your deck to your field. However, the downside of this is you do have to use a spread of Melffy cards. Normally in a Melffy deck, you'd probably use the Puppy, the Sealy, the Caddy, and the Wally. Normally, people don't use the Pony and the Caddy, but since we're using Wally, you have to have a decent spread of Melffy cards, so I did include these 2. And they have their own little niche applications, I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, normally Melffy cards before Wally, you didn't have to use the extra Melffy cards. But it's still a really good card to get your really good Melffy cards on the field. And just a good extender on your opponent's turn. Because then you can go into like Caddy and Puppy, and then the Caddy's effect triggers, you can go into a Hopbeard Squadron. Then you can go into a synchro play, or you can go and trigger Puppy to pop a card in the field. There's a lot of really good that can come from having a Wally on your field. And besides Puppy, I think this is your number 1 search target at all times with certain cards. Next up is 3 copies of Caddy. This is your main searcher of the deck if you want to search literally any beast card. If you want to search a Rescue Cat for a setup next turn, it can search Alpha the Master of Beasts for next turn. It can add a Hopbeard Squadron, so you can go into a synchro summon on your opponent's turn. It's mainly setup fodder. Um, and it does a really good job of that, allowing you to, again, go into stuff on your opponent's turn, like Omni negates and all this other crazy stuff. So some people run in that too, which I can agree with to an extent, but I think it's just a bit more better in the late game that you run 3. Next up is 1 copy of Melffy Pony. Normally, again, yeah, people don't run this card, but I am, which is weird, but hey, it allows you to actually recycle your level 2 or lower beast cards. So you can recycle your Wally, your Puppy, your Callan if you want to, which can lead to a little mini loop with him and Fenny to just summon out Countosa over and over again, which is how you play Melffys in Duel Links, actually. But it's just a bit of a recycler. You know, you can even add your Hoppier Squadron back if you want to go into another Synchro play if you so wish. Next up is Melffy Fenny, and this is the last of the main Melffy monsters. I don't normally use this card. I think this is the worst of the Melffy cards, in my humble opinion. It allows you to special summon a beast monster from your hand. You're not going to normally be using this effect unless if you have a Calantosa in your hand. But that's basically it. You can form a loop where you can special summon, if your Calantosa is in your graveyard, you could use Pony to bring it back, and then Fenny to special summon it, and you just have to this continuous loop of popping cards on the field. Which can be good in some niche applications, but normally you're not really going to be using this card. It's mainly used for Wally in order to just get more Melffys on the field pretty quickly and use them for Xyz fodder, Synchro fodder, or whatever you want to do. Next up is 2 copies of Calantosa, Mystical Beast of the Forest. This is one of the best cards of the deck, and I am not joking. This card has saved my ass time and time again against certain decks. Whenever special summoned by the effect of a beast monster, you can pop a card in the field. Really easy, really useful. It's one of your main summons off of Puppy, just to get rid of an annoying target, or to burn through an Apollosa, which I have used. I have used Calantosa to help burn through Apollosa negates, because, you know, just bring it to the graveyard, you can just bring it back next turn with the Pony, and just go into a bunch of other stuff. However, I do think that 2 is the consensus on the amount of cards you should run in this deck, because, like I said, with the Sealy and the Malfa Master Beast, having too many can gum up your hand a little bit. Especially if you don't have a Fenny on deck, if you have a Calantosa in your hand. So, 2 is just fine. Next up is a bit of boring stuff here. We have our hand traps. 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. It's Ash. It's a fucking Ash Blossom. I don't know what the fuck you want from me. I'm not using the Feet one because... No. And 3 copies of Effect Veiler. These 2 cards are actually going to be a lot cheaper now. Effect Veiler because it came out in the Albat Strike Structure deck. And Ash Blossom and Joy Spring because not only is it getting a reprint in the Tin of Ancients, but it's actually going to be in the Crystal Beast Structure deck. So it's going to be really cheap, really easy to pick up. So there's no excuse why you shouldn't have these 2 cards. And if you want to, you can cut down the Effect Veiler and the Ash Blossom to 2 and put in DD Crow or Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion if you want to get the full spread. Next up is the new Melffy Staring Contest. This is the new Melffy Continuous spell we got in Power of the Ancients. First off, it allows you to reveal a beast monster in your hand and add a Melffy card with a different name from your deck or graveyard to your hand and place that monster on the bottom. So if you have a beast card or a Melffy card that you don't want and you have Staring Contest, you could turn it into a Wally or a Puppy or whatever you need in that specific moment. And during your opponent's battle phase, you can reveal any number of Melffy cards in your hand and keep them revealed during the battle phase only. And monsters your opponent controls lose attack equal to the combined attack and defense of monsters revealed by this effect. This is really good, and this is why I'm running this at 3. Because with how many Melffy cards you can get on the field now with Wally and Puppy, it's ridiculous how much you can cut your opponent's attack by. I think the most I've gotten them down was by like 2,000 or 3,000, because I just had my hands stacked with Melffy cards. And it's relatively easy to pull off if you have a Wally. And not only that, it happens every single battle phase, which is absolutely phenomenal. And this is probably, besides Wally, the best piece of support that we got in the new support that came out in Power of the Elements, not the Ancients God. Next up is 2 Melffy Hide and Seek. It's okay, honestly. I might cut this down to 1 and give the Melffy tag a 2, or another copy of Melffy tag in there. But basically, each time your opponent would try to destroy a Melffy card or a beast card by a card effect, it wouldn't be destroyed. Not only that, you can target 3 beast monsters in your graveyard with different names, shuffle them into the deck, and draw a card. Good for recycling your Melffy cards even more. If you run out of plays with your Wally, you can just trigger Hide and Seek, shuffle those cards back into the deck, and then there you go, you have more resources to go into. Next up is Melffy Tag. Target a Melffy monster in your graveyard and special summon it. It's a monster reborn for Melffys. I might up this to 2 copies and downgrade the Hide and Seek to 1, because I think this is a lot better. Actually, we'll do that now, actually. Yes, mid-video deck swap here. We're going to put 2 tag in there and 1 hide and seek. I actually prefer that a lot better. I'm going to save that. Because it allows you to bring back whatever you want. And they'll still have their effects as well. You can summon your Wally and then go into a play whenever your opponent tries to attack it. So, pretty solid. Pretty solid. And pretty helpful in the late game when you run out of Melffy cards to go into. Next up is 2 copies of Sprite Gamma Burst. Now, this might be a weird inclusion, but I did it for a funny meme play. So, what you can do with this card is all rank, level, or link 2 monsters your opponent currently on your field gain 1400 attack and defense at the end of the turn. And you can banish it and target a level, rank, or link 2 card you control, and it gains 1400 attack. Good little trap for your Xyz cards. But I mainly use this with Joyous Melffys, which can attach material from this card and attack directly. So what I would do is, if I had this card in my hand, I'd go into Joyous Melffy. I'd either set it. If I'm going first, I'd go into Joyous Melffys and then set it. So if they try to swing into it, I'll just trigger it that way. Or if I'm going second, I'll trigger Joyous Melffy's effect to make it attack directly this turn. Then trigger the Sprite Gamma Burst, and then I will be swinging for 3,400 points of direct damage. Incredibly funny if you could pull it off. And there's really no other tactical reason why I put it in. It's just funny. Next up is 3 copies of Obedience School. This is your second combo starter, which allows you to special summon 3 level 2 beast effect monsters, with different names from your deck, but their effects are negated and they're destroyed during the end phase. It's, to me, not the best combo starter, but mainly because of that flavor text saying you cannot special summon any monsters besides beast monsters for the rest of the turn, which is kind of a downer, actually, because a lot of your stuff is your Herald of Arclight, your Entity Hassiter, your other stuff. So it basically locks you into beasts, which definitely doesn't help. However, it is still a really good card. I would not run any less than 3 of this card, because it's just free combo setup. And finally, 1 Called by the Grave, just generic stuff for removing hand traps, pesky cards in the graveyard, what have you. It's Called by the Grave. Come on. Okay, so that is it for the main deck, and for the extra deck, we have 1 Old Entity Hassiter. This is a weird inclusion, but I was just looking through level 4 Circle Monsters and found this card, and it's actually pretty solid. Not only is it one of the highest attack monsters that we have at 2300, but if it's sent to the monster zone to the graveyard, we can take control of them. You can equip this card to a monster your opponent controls, and if it ever leaves the field, I can take control of the monster that it was equipped to. I'm not sure the entire rulings of this card because I have yet to pull this effect off, but it does sound really funny though, so if you want another alternate for this card, add a 3rd copy of Herald of the Arclight. I just want to do this because it was funny. Next up, 1 copy of Nat Beast. Since we have the 1 copy of Arabellum, Naturia Beast is very much, you need to have a 1 copy of this. So basically it says fuck you the spell cards. Unfortunately, it doesn't say fuck you the trap cards, because that's another Naturia card. Or else, I put it in here just to screw over Dinomorphia, because fuck that deck. But the card's actually really useful against Branded. It stops their Branded Fusion, it stops their field spells, it stops a whole bunch of their other cards. So usually, if I know my opponent's playing Branded, in some way, shape, or form, I'd go into Naturia Beast to stop them from doing whatever they're doing. And thanks to Pony and Melffy Tag, I don't have to worry too much if they send a Melffy card to the graveyard, because I could just bring that back with Melffy Tag. Next up is 2 copies of Herald of the Arclight. Originally I had this at 1 copy, but this card's just too fucking stupid to pass up. This is the worst card in the deck. It's an Omni Negate. Basically, if your opponent activates anything, you tribute this card, it gets negated and destroyed. That's it. That's all it does. And it's really useful because you can go into it on your opponent's turn, thanks to Hopper Squadron and Melffy Sealy. It's stupid. I hate this card, but also it's a necessary evil that I have to play with this deck. Next up is Cheerful Melffys at 2 copies. This is the new Melffy Synchro card that we got in Power of the Elements, which allows this card, when this card is special summoned, you can target a face-up monster on the field, return it to your hand. If your opponent also special summons a monster, or targets this card for an attack, you can special summon a Melffy Exceeds from your extra deck. That first effect's really good if you want to float some cards back into your hand, and also kind of good against tier elements because their cards want to be in the graveyard. Instead, you can just float them back into your extra deck instead of them getting their graveyard effects. In terms of the second part, though, where you can special summon a Melffy Exceeds monster, the only good target is Melffy of the Forest, which we're going to get into. But other than that, it's just a decent little floater. More control, more stall tactics, which is what this deck is all about, so that's always good. Next up with the Exceeds monsters, we have 1 copy of Melffy of the Forest, which allows us to attach a material from this card to search a Melffy card. And if another face-up Melffy you control returns to your hand, I can target a face-up monster your opponent controls. It can't attack, and its effects are negated while it's face-up on the field. Really good card, especially if you're going first. If you go first, I heavily recommend you go into this card. Or, during your opponent's turn, you can go into Cheerful Melffys and then go into Melffy of the Forest, because the second effect to negate a monster's effect and not let it attack at all while it's on the field is really fucking good in general. And it can, I've seen this card, stop opponent's plays dead. Next up is the 1 copy of Melffy Mommy, because Lamau, this is sort of another meme card. You don't really see this card pop up all too often, but it does have some pretty useful effects. It requires you, though, to use a lot of resources, though, which is why, if you want to scrap this card out and put another of the Synchro cards, or put another Melffy of the Forest, I don't know, something, surprise me. But, the effect is pretty useful. When you get 5 materials on there, when attacks declared involving this card and an attack position monster, you can deal burn damage equal to their monster's attack. Which is okay, but I mean, most of the time, your opponent's going to be trying to target this with card effects, and there's nothing about saying this card can't be destroyed by card effects, only that it cannot be destroyed by battle. Next up is 1 copy of Joyous Melffys. This card is the card that I recommend you going into if you go second, because you can swing directly at your opponent, deal a decent chunk of damage, and if you want to, you can go into your little Zeus engine, or you can use your Sprite Gamma Burst and deal a shit ton of damage. Or if you don't want to go into the Zeus engine, you can use the effect of this card to put it back in your extra deck and bring back some level 2 or lower beast cards from your graveyard. So you can return this to your extra deck and bring out a Kalantosa to pop a card in the field. You can use it to bring out your Wally. Yeah, it's just level 2 beast, unfortunately, so you can use it to bring back any of your Melffy cards, your Kalantosas, whatever you need. So it definitely depends on the situation, though, when you want to go for the effect or when you want to go for the Zeus play. Next up, number 64, Ronin Raccoon Sundayu. This is an okay pick, mainly because of the effect to summon out a token to your side of the field, which attack points equal the highest monster's attack points on the field. So, say if you're playing against Brick Eyes White Dragon, you can special summon this card, and the token will gain 3,000 attack points if there's a Blue Eyes on the field, which is good if you just want to crash into stuff. Not only that, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects if another beast monster is on the field, so it's a really good wall, which is really hard to get over. So your opponent has to waste their attacks on your other cards before getting to this one. Next up is Sky Cavalry Centuria. This recently got reprinted in Ghost of the Past Part 2. Return of the whatever the fuck. I don't know what fucking cards were in that set, but this card got reprinted. This card was $28 when it first came out, which was stupid, but this is part of what I call the level 2 Zeus package. It's mainly the fact that it cannot be destroyed while by battle while it has Xyz material. You can detach the Xyz material from this card and float a monster back to their hand, which I have done. And it's really funny when you can get that to work. But I mainly use it for the Zeus engine because it can't be destroyed by battle. It's a free attack point. It's a free attack. You know, you take the damage. Because then you can go to your copy of Downward Magician, which basically, all that text is saying, hey look, summon Zeus, and then you have Zeus as a free board wipe. I mean, also a 3k beat stick, because Alpha the Master Beast is enough, apparently. Finally, we have our 2 link cards, mainly to help round out the deck. This is our, first off, is Fairship the Burying Blossom. This is the only Tri-Brigade card I'm wanting to play, because it allows you to special summon a level 4 or lower Beast Warrior, or Wing Beast monster from your hand. Like, you can special summon your Rescue Cat, go to a play from there. You can go special summon your Count Toaster from hand, the pop card in the field, any of your Melffys. And not only that, you can draw a card when it's destroyed and put a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck, which is very useful if you have some dead cards in your hand. Finally is Mrs. Radiant, which normally I don't really bring out all too often. I want to see if I can start incorporating it more. But I remember people talking about this card and using it with Earth decks. So basically all Earth monsters gain 500 attack and defense, while all Wind monsters lose 400 attack and defense. It's kind of useful, I guess. You can make your Alpha more of a beat stick, or you can make your Joyous Melffys even more of a beat stick. Go into Joyous Melffys, get Mrs. Radiant, and get Sprite Gamma Burst to deal a massive ton of damage to your opponent directly. And that's all it's used for, basically. Oh yeah, if it's ever destroyed by graveyard, you can add an Earth monster from your graveyard to your hand. So if you have Melffy cards in your graveyard, you can bring them back to your hand with this card. So that's it for the Melffy deck profile for today. We are running a bit long at 26 minutes, which is a bit long for a deck profile, but I really wanted to go in depth on all my card choices, why I decided to choose this as my first deck profile. But unfortunately, I don't think I have time for a test hand or anything like that. So I could do some test hands in another video if requested. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time whenever I choose to upload in the foreseeable future. So, later.